Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 80s. Freaky Childhood Edition. Anyway, I thought today we would share a little look-see into some of the things that kind of shaped who I would be as a human being. Weird that I would be sitting here in front of a shirt with Bowie's face and a creepy children's book. Or is it? Let me give you some background. I am the daughter of somebody that was 16 when I was born. And because of that, her parents, my grandparents, largely supported her while parenting me. My grandparents are religious and still faithfully attend the same church. I was raised in that household to be able to go to church, but also I did not have to make a commitment to God. I did not have to have any kind of adult ceremony or early childhood ceremony like a confirmation or anything like that. I was dedicated as a baby, but that is it. And from there, I was let to make my own decision. I was raised, like I said, largely by my grandparents because my mother was so young. My mother was in and out of my life, still is. And that's, par for the course for some families. We got to accept where we're at with some people and set our boundaries accordingly. But my grandmother, as unique as she was, who was raised Baptist, married a Mennonite, and was an educator, let me be whoever I was going to be. The weirder, the better for her. And it was almost like I was living out the childhood that she was never allowed to because she was raised in a strict Baptist home by Scottish parents. So I very much embraced all things weird. I very much was a Sesame Street watcher, and I was a very curious kid. So the minute I watched something, I would ask questions about it, and that meant my grandmother was usually the person there watching it with me because she loved TV and movies. She still does. I'm very lucky that she is still with us, and she is an incredible woman today, just as she was then. Still has a great sense of humor, still loves to watch things like Labyrinth with me, and still supports whatever crazy, wild thing I am doing with my life. But when I got into Sesame Street and started asking questions, I realized that the characters that I so loved on Sesame Street were actually puppets. And as I got into puppeteering, I got into Jim Henson. And subsequently, my passion really blew up, and my grandmother supported that. So she taught me how to make puppets. She put me in little classes where I learned to make marionettes and how to operate those. We learned about shadow puppeteering. We learned about animatronics, all these very cool things. But before that, there was Labyrinth. And I was introduced to Labyrinth probably at around age 6 and immediately fell head over heels in love with David Bowie. Everything about him. Everything about him. The wig, the makeup, the way he spoke, the owl that flew in as Jareth, all of the wonderful wizardry and performity that was Bowie, and the whole cast, really. Jennifer Connelly does a bang-up job as Sarah. All of the actors that play all of the different puppets, everything. That movie is just magic, pure magic wrapped in gold. But for me as a kid, and a very imaginative kid, and a reader who loved puppets, that quickly became my favorite movie and has actually become a family favorite with both of my children enjoying it and now my stepdaughter, who is 8, who started watching Labyrinth at 2 and really loved it. And I think it's important here to point out that, both Labyrinth itself and the book that's sitting in front of it, Bony Legs, both look conventionally like something that might scare children. But with the right amount of parental guidance involved in both scenarios, you can take that fear away from that child and make it something very exciting and very educational and imaginative, just as my grandmother had the power to do for me. So, for example, in the movie Labyrinth, there's a character, Ludo, who is supposed to invoke fear and be this very loud, big, hairy, scary thing when you meet him. There's also the fire gang and a few other characters that should scare children. And instead, when those characters came on the screen, my grandmother would say, "Oh, do you know how they work that puppet?" And she would take that scary thing and make it make sense to me. Not only make it make sense to me, but make my creative brain go, how did they make him? Is there a man inside it, or is that a robot that's being controlled? So it's important to stay subjective in certain scenarios with kids especially, and just really meet them where they're at, but also watch things with them so that you can explain to them, this is makeup, this is a puppet, this is a robot, so that it takes that fear away from them and they are able to enjoy it as a film and as a production. If it's a play, whatever, explain the pyrotechnics. The building's not on fire. It's a controlled scenario. So Bowie was a favorite of mine, always, still is. He passed and it devastated me. My dog is named Bowie. Bowie also was a big awakening for me because as a young child, I was very attracted to Bowie. His aesthetic, like I said, his makeup, his dress, his demeanor, his confidence, not just as the character of Jareth in Labyrinth, but as I started watching his music videos, seeing him as Ziggy Stardust. All of those things for me were so empowering as a kid that would later come out and realize, I was bisexual as a human being. And, Bowie suddenly made so much more sense at that point. But as a child, I was allowed to like Bowie. I was allowed to like Bowie. I was allowed to like creepy children's literature. And I was encouraged to ask questions and to be curious. So this leads me to the book Bony Legs, which as a kid was my favorite, to the point that I can still very much remember this book. Even as an adult, you can see just how weathered it is and how well loved. When I open it, you can see that's my grandmother. So... and that T is probably representative of the fact that at some point it would have been in her school's library, and T would have represented teen because it's not a kid's book. But I was allowed to take whatever book I wanted and try to read it and then ask questions about it and see if I comprehended it. And then if I didn't, we would return the book and choose a different one. So Bony Legs was, I think I was about 5 when it really, really hit that this was my favorite book and it had to be read every night at bedtime. And I would, copy the pictures from it and things like this. But now you're going to hear this story. And as creepy as it is, I want you to view it like a child. Whereas viewing it as an adult now, you look at it and go, oh, that's scary. How could a child be read this book at night? But I assure you, as a child, I did not think this book was scary. Bony Legs was a horrible, bad witch. She could run very fast on her bony old legs. Her teeth were made of iron, and she liked to eat little children. She lived deep in the woods in a hut that stood on chicken feet. Very Tim Burton-esque drawings in this book as well. All day long, she waited for children to pass by. On the edge of the same wood, a girl named Sasha lived with her aunt. One morning, Sasha's aunt sent her out to borrow a needle and thread. She took some bread and butter and a bit of meat for lunch. She began to walk. She walked and walked. She was surprised when she came to a hut that stood on chicken feet. She decided to go inside. She opened the gate. It creaked and groaned. Poor gate, said Sasha. You need some grease. She scraped the butter from her bread and rubbed it on the hinges of the gate. It opened quietly. Sasha walked up the path. A skinny dog stood in her way. It barked and barked. Poor dog, said Sasha. You look hungry. She gave her bread to the dog. He ate it up and did not bark again. A cat was sitting near the hut, mewing sadly. Poor kitty, said Sasha. Are you hungry too? She gave her meat to the cat. Old Bony Legs poked her head out the window. What do you want? She asked Sasha. My aunt would like to borrow a needle and thread, said Sasha. Come right in, said the witch. Sasha went inside. Now, said Bony Legs, get into the tub. Why? Asked Sasha. I don't need a bath. I want you nice and clean, said Bony Legs. I'm going to cook you for my supper. She grinned and showed her iron teeth. then went outside to gather sticks for the fire. She locked the door behind her. Sasha was scared. She began to cry. "Don't cry," said a voice. "I will help you." Sasha looked around. No one was there but the cat. "Fill the tub, but don't get in," said the cat. Sasha had never heard a cat talk, but she did what it told her. Reading this book now is hard because I have it memorized in my head, so some of the words I skip over. Please forgive. Bonylegs called through the door. "Are you washing, girl?" "Yes, I am," said Sasha. "Good," said Bonylegs, and she went away to gather more sticks. After she had gone, the cat gave Sasha a silver mirror. "When you are in trouble, throw this away," said the cat. That does not make sense, thought Sasha. But she took the mirror and put it in her pocket. "Now run," said the cat. Sasha climbed out the window and began to run. The witch called through the door again. "Are you washing, girl?" "Yes, I am," said the cat. "Well, hurry up," said Bonylegs. Then she went away. Sasha ran through the yard. The dog stopped her and gave her a wooden comb. "When you need help, throw this away," said the dog. That does not make sense, thought Sasha. But she put the comb in her pocket, then she opened the gate. It did not make a sound on its buttered hinges. Sasha ran into the woods. Bonylegs called through the door again. "Are you washing, girl?" "Yes, I am," said the cat. "What?" said Bonylegs. "Not done yet." She flung open the door. There was the cat. There was the tub. But where was Sasha? "You sneaky cat!" yelled Bonylegs. "Why did you trick me?" "You never fed me," said the cat. "But Sasha gave me meat to eat." "Bah!" said Bonylegs, and she ran into the yard. The dog was sleeping in the sun. "You lazy dog!" shouted Bonylegs. "Why didn't you bark at her?" "You never fed me," said the dog. "But Sasha gave me bread to eat." "Bah!" said the witch, and she rushed to the gate. "You worthless gate!" she screamed. "You didn't lock her in." "You never took care of me," said the gate. "But Sasha put butter on my hinges." The old witch flew into a rage. She stamped her feet, pulled her hair, and even pinched her own nose. But she did not feel any better. She ran after Sasha on her bony old legs. Sasha looked back and saw the witch's iron teeth glinting in the sun. Sasha was scared. She remembered the silver mirror. She took it out of her pocket and threw it behind her. The mirror became a deep silver lake. Bonylegs could not cross it. She ran home and got her tub. She rowed it across the lake and ran after Sasha on her bony old legs. Sasha saw the witch coming again. She remembered the wooden comb. She took it out of her pocket and threw it behind her. The comb grew until it was as tall as 3 trees. Bonylegs could not climb over it. Missing a page. She could not dig under it. She could not even squeeze through it. At last she gave up and stamped her feet, pulled her hair, and pinched her nose all the way back to her hut. Sasha went home too, and you can be sure she never went back to the house that stood on chicken feet. And for as long as she lived, she never saw old Bonylegs again. The end. So yeah, lesson here, folks, is you don't need a Bible to tell you to be good. This book did it for me as a kid. This book taught me if I did the things and could predict, this person looks like they're sad. If I ask them if they're sad and can console them, then that makes me feel better, but it also makes them feel better. So this book taught me more than a Bible ever could. And that's saying a whole hell of a lot. And beyond that, let kids be kids. Let them be weird, but also give them enough guidance, give them enough education, and be present enough to take the scary away and to make sure that the stuff that they're watching that seems like it isn't scary, actually is. There are things on the internet that kids go on to that are on kids' YouTube that parents think, well, it's kids' YouTube and that's just fine. And it isn't. It's something that's, made to look like a cartoon that's actually quite scary, or it's grooming children or whatever. This stuff is just pure gold. Let your kids live like an 80s kid. Maybe don't smoke in the house around them, though.